Oh, give me a second. Okay, now it's recording. All right, so this is the first day of the Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life study. Before jumping to the content, I would like to go through the agenda, logistics, planning, and goals, because some of you folks have been in the Kabbalion group of study with us last year. This will be the first group of study for some of you. But the intent here is to finish reading The Ancient Secret of the Flower of Life by Junvalo Melchizedek. We're gonna read a chapter per week, and during this encounter, the goal is to share our insights about the topic, to bring up some questions we may have regarding anything that is related to that topic. One thing myself, and I believe all of the others that joined the Kybalion group of study realize is we can learn much more together. Sometimes I will be seeing one topic from my perspective, but when I receive someone else's perspective, I have a better understanding about the topic or object. So it really help us uh, to develop a more holistic and a more whole view of that topic. So our goal will be going through this book. We meet up every Monday from 8:30 to 9:30 p.m. and we share our insights and any interest uh, related topics that we find out. So this is the goal. As planning, I put the agenda in the group, and we have one chapter per week every Monday from 8:30 to 9:30. I want to create a Telegram group so we can send all of the links to the videos, books, and other information. So it's easier if someone join the group later, they can have all access uh, to the information. So I'm gonna send that there. And if the Teams works for everybody, I'm gonna keep doing it in Teams. So I don't have time limit. Plus, um I can record the videos. So I'm gonna share that for some of the people that cannot attend for that specific week or whatever is the case. I went through logistics, planning, goal, agenda, the agenda is reading, and then kind of the planning. So this, like I said, this week we went through the introductions, but we won't do that next time. So we have more time to discuss the chapters. Um, and I would like to start the next meetings or the next calls with a quick meditation. I won't do today because uh, we spent 25 minutes already, but for the next times, I will do a very quick meditation that relates to sacred geometry, relates to what we're going to study. And it's a simplified version of mental cleaning. So next week, I'm going to share how we can do that, and I will guide this 5 minutes meditation so we can clear our mind, set our intentions, and we can get in tune with our center and allow the information to come from the heart with a clear mind. With all of that said, get to business and talk about the book. I would like just to set the intention here to connect with our hearts, to connect with our centers, so we can receive any information that we need to receive for a better understanding of the chapter we read. And I also invite our guides to protect this circle, protect us as we go through those sacred and occult topics that used to be hidden, but now they are disclosed for all humankind. I'd like to start reading the preface because it's every line there has so much, and I guess that will help giving the or guiding the discussion. But John Volo says, "Only one spirit, Long before Samaria existed, before Egypt had built Saqqara, before the Indus Valley flourished, spirit lived in human bodies, dancing in high culture. The Sphinx knows the truth. We are much more than we know. We have forgotten. The flower of life was in was and it is known by all life, not only here but everywhere. Knew it was the creation pattern, the way in, the way out. Spirit create us in this image. You know this is true. It is written in your body, in all your bodies. Long ago, we fell from a very high state of consciousness, and the memories are just now beginning to emerge. The birth of our new old consciousness here on earth will change us forever and return us to the awareness that there is a truly only one spirit. What we're about to read is a journey of my life through this reality, how I learned about Great Spirit and about the relationships that each of us have with all life everywhere. I see Great Spirit in the eyes of everyone, and I know that He, she is within you. You already hold within your deepest being, all the information I will be sharing with you. When you first read it, it may seem like something you have never heard before, but isn't. This is an ancient information. You can remember things that are deep inside you. And it's my hope that this book will trigger these things so you can remember who you are, why you came here, and what your purpose is for being here on earth. It's my prayer that this book will become a blessing in your life and give you a new awakening about yourself and something about your you that is very, very old. Thank you for sharing this journey with me. I love you deeply for in truth we are old friends. We are one. It's great. There's so much here. And in the introduction, he will also say that he will ask sorry for any mistake he committed writing the book. So I want us all to remember this and to understand that everything he wrote down is his perspectives of the messages he was receiving, right? So in the first chapter, he explained how he met the two angels, and the two angels was they were giving him information. If we, if you have other informations that conflict with Junvol information, let's just remember that he was channeling that and translating that multidimensional information with his pineal. So, two different channelers, two different beings could have a different interpretation of the same message. So I always like to remind myself of that, and it helps when I find like two people that I really trust giving different perspectives. I try to remember that that's how they understood the truth or how they understood that topic. So I'll start pointing some topics here. You guys feel free to jump in and to add. That one thing that got my attention.
I wanted to share something if it's okay.
Too bad.
So related to what you said, but also related to chapter one and just our own experiences with information and with truth. And how in the book there's a picture of a spinning galaxy, right? This figure here, and then we see this spinning picture of the atom, and how we receive things, and so in chapter one, when it talks about the um gosh, did I go too fast? When it talks about pi and it talks about the Sanskrit poem, um and we go through that number, we go through the relationship of that number through the Sanskrit alphabet. And in relation to what you were saying, there can be numbers in that sequence of pi that as it continues, I may not understand, but there are numbers that we can connect with a little bit, deeper based on our own experiences in relationship with those numbers. That doesn't necessarily means that the full sequence is wrong, just because I'm not able to fully understand, you know, the full breakdown of that fraction today. And so even as far as that information goes, I think that for me, if I'm able to just connect two dots in this line, I have two pieces of it that for me, I can feel the truth of those two pieces, even though I'm not drawing that full line or I'm not doing the math to understand the full fraction of pi, longer than, 32 decimals or whatever, right? So for me, that's been a really interesting thing to note, just because there are things that in this chapter that I really understand from just other readings. And there are things that I really feel in my bones from experiences and ceremonies or messages, part of my own meditation. The experience that he says the angel said, what was it? It was so funny to me because I was like, oh my God, they've said the same thing to me. Where the angel say, okay, you're done, leave. I've personally have had an experiences where I was asking the angels for more information, and like the angel was kind of mean to me. Is like, I told you before, you didn't do anything. I'm not gonna tell you anymore. I already told you. And so, even if sometimes we don't understand, there are different things that we can kind of feel the truth of it at first, and then like that logical brain part of us that requires like confirmation, requires facts or whatever, that can come later, but there's a deeper part of us that, even as Jean Valou says here, is like it's remembering too, because in a lot of ways we already have some of that knowledge. So yeah, so thank you for sharing that, because that's been a really big thing for me, of just like leaving the logical brain behind. I don't require proof. Like I can just kind of like my intuition can feel the truth of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Experience is over proof, right? I mean, that is your proof, your experience of it. It's like experience is the thing that's yours, right? We try to translate it, but we just have to use words, but to point the way, I guess, right? And I guess staying on the topic of, you know, perspective and kind of, I guess, leading to we're all special, right? Because even this divine being, thought, right, came to what's his name, Dronalva, for information, for help, right? I mean, that was an exchange of information. So it's like it kind of makes me say, like, stay humble, like don't ever, you never know everything, because this being came to this mere mortal who really didn't even know what he's doing, right? To get information. So it's just a good reminder, and I guess something to keep track of.
Sharing. And yeah, regarding being humble and the goals of the book, he talks a couple of times that the goal of the book is to get to the Merkaba meditation. But then as we go through the first chapter, he says that realization of living divine love is more important than any meditation. So I mean, as we work on living love, I mean that's an extremely important work above a bunch of stuff, a bunch of techniques, a bunch of, you know following the script. So that's one important thing, because we may have so many different ways to get there. And I do feel like the work we keep doing with meditation, with plant medicine, it's guiding and driving us there. And the other thing he also mentioned, it's more important than the technique itself, is the connection with the higher self. And again, how you're gonna connect with the higher self. There are so many different ways to that. So I also like that perspective, because he's giving a bunch of background and context that's very important, so he can teach the meditation. But as we go through this journey, let remind ourselves that the most important goal is to live from the heart and to stay connected with our higher self.
And when he says about the divine love, he says about to return to our original state. So I think it's always more about to unlearn things than learn new things. Sometimes you need to just unpack our backpack that is full of shit and come to our original state that is connected to the divine abundance, love, and that is unlimited. But here we kind of limit the things, and we want explanation for everything, and it's more about unlearning.
Well, in the intro, he says that if you overestimate the work in this book, then you've missed the point. And that kind of gave me some relief, because it feels a little overwhelming to me, the geometry and the math. And, I'm like, oh, I'm definitely not good with that. But he also says that you have to live it. And see, that's the part that makes sense for me, is that energetic part of he talks about the Merkaba, the light body, and that this is all new to me. So it's kind of exciting, but it's at the same time, the book is a little bit heavy in information, and and I know he talks about it. He says, I'm giving you all these pieces and later it'll come together, because that's kind of how it feels right now. Like, I'm not quite sure where we're going with this, but it seems like what you said earlier, that it's the Merkaba meditation that we're being led to eventually. So, but it's all good. Did you want to say something? Okay.
Yeah, and another thing I will look at you, first time I read the book, I remember when he was going through the Flower of Life, and I read the chapter, then I read it again, and then I watched a video 3 times about it, and it was, damn it, it doesn't stick to my brain. And then I started drawing, and then as I was drawing the sacred geometry, shapes and forms, everything started making sense. So, whoa, that's the movement of God. That's what the Spirit is doing. So he talks in this chapter about the right side brain and the left side brain, and we were taught to live on the left side brain, the male brain, to rationalize everything. I'm still unlearning how to do that, like Kachi said, constantly practicing that, because we were taught to always act from the rational side, and to learn some of those topics we really need to drop that a bit, drop from the brain to the heart, or like João Blue says, from the left side to the right side, so we can get a better understanding, or at least a whole understanding, a holistic view of the topic. Because as in our male vision or the rational vision, we keep trying to understand things in a piece, and then as we piece it out, I mean, we can't see the whole, so we need to step back and connect with that other side that we have in ourselves. And what helped me doing that was drawing. So as I drew it, I had a different understanding of the symbols that we go through in this book.
And you connect the creative part of your brain,
Yeah.
that is the feminine, the right one, and with the logical one. Art is a good way to connect with the feminine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because a couple of people have said that even from the beginning of the call, like Joey said that about, you know, the infantile state. And I think that all of us feel like that in some regard of like, we don't have all of this knowledge that we can rattle off from the left side of our brain, right? That it's like we know all of these things. And Pablo said it with like talking about pi, about he knows only this much of the equation and doesn't know the rest yet. And that's exactly what he's talking about in the section talking about the left and right brain realities, that, you know, we get so caught up in that left brain side that we get so fixated to know everything. And then we think if we know everything from the left side of our brain, that then we know everything, but we don't, because we have to use that the right side of our brain. And then ultimately the marriage of the left and the right side, along with the intuition and the higher sight from our pineal gland that is so shrunk, right? And how do we use these tools to activate that and bring the sides together so that we have the higher sight and also the connection with our higher self? So I love how, like, even just in this conversation, as we're like setting up talking about it, like we're all like going around that, you know, we're all kind of like dancing around that circle of like what he was talking about in there without even like us like conscientiously knowing it.
Yeah, that's very symbolic, like this topic of like the right side. Even as like, you know, growing up, as I grew up Catholic, you know, so there are many verses like in the Bible that talks about, you know, the right side, like cast your head to the right side and you'll catch all the fish, you know, sitting on the right hand of Christ. There's so many like hidden, you know, the Bible speaks in like metaphors and symbolism, and it's like right, it's like hidden in plain sight, you know what I mean? And it's like so symbolic about the whole right side, and even like tithing is like how in church and religion they tell us that we have to like give 10% of what we earn, right, to the church. But that 10%, in, you know, one way that you can look at it is that 10% is the right side of the brain. You know, give me that 10%. Give me, you know, sacrifice the left side and give me that 10%. That's what it actually means. You know what I mean? So that's awesome stuff. So it's a very esoteric and hidden information, hidden in plain sight. So that's awesome.
Beautiful. It's funny how we had that for a long time, and we as humans, we really didn't use that for 2000 years. But it's all there. And talking about old civilizations and the Bible and history, the book also gives some clues that we know so little about our history, as he goes through the Dogon uh, civilizations, Sumerians and Egyptians. I don't know what are your guys' system of belief, but I mean it's hard to put like what we know, the evidences we have regarding our history, and those old cultures together face by face, and it doesn't sum up. Right? Like how Egyptians wrote or drew the all of the planets, the constellations, like 5,000 years ago. How those Dogons, like a small tribe in Africa, knew about Sirius. That Sirius had like two stars. You know, we recently learned that. So, and then they start drawing those spaceships on the walls. And for me, I mean, it's crystal clear that we have had contact with other civilizations over the time. And yeah, I just want to show that on the table and kind of challenge our belief systems.
Yeah, even if you go into the nerdy aspect of those ancient civilizations or like ancient technology that people can't still explain today, I love stuff like that. I'm like a dollar store Indiana Jones with stuff like that. I just love researching and reading about it because it's so fascinating. And even if we move away from the nerdy scientific, like carbon dating and all of the things that are used to be able to measure so many of these things today, if we forget all of that, the common thing that connects to all of these things is we are so much more than what we are led to believe. And that's the thing that's really incredible for me now is just looking at those things from the past and looking at the past with our eyes today. It's so easy to be fascinated by those people and the connections that they had to higher knowledge to be able to build the pyramids, build all of the temples in the ways that they did with the layout and the measurements that they did. All of the crazy things that Da Vinci put in his art that we're still like trying to study, like how did that guy know so much about all of these other things? It just makes me think, wow, we all have that too. And so that's what really kind of going back to that idea of left brain, right brain, and trying to really like exercise our pineal gland and reinforcing our corpus callosum, connecting both of our brain, both of the hemispheres in our brain. In some ways, it's really cool to be able to see how that like takes us back to our hearts, because it just makes me so excited to know, man, like we have some of that in us today, right now, too. It's not just ancient people with these wonderful, magical, crazy, unimaginable things, but it's inside of each of us. And I think that I'm saying this because I guess I'm just trying to remind myself, to not get lost in all of the nerdy, fascinating, interesting details, but just to remember that all of that wonderful stuff is inside of us. Like the way, you mentioned the Dogon tribe, like the way that they were able to figure out how Sirius A and B are going around each other, and how, just barely recently, we with our technology can confirm that. What else is magical and amazing that we can do, and not like the Dogons did hundreds of years ago, but like what can we do for ourselves today? um so that's been really a cool message about this book for me so far. Is I'm not sure who mentioned the experimental word, the experiential, like just having those experiences for ourselves. um it's kind of like, yeah, I'm teaching you. I feel like Drumvalo is saying like, yeah, I can teach you, I can show you, I can tell you all these things, but you have to go out there and do it yourself too.
Well, I like what you were saying, Myron, about drawing. I'm going to try that. Try drawing, and because that, like Pablo was just saying, it's using the body. It's that experimental. It's more. I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting to look at things from different perspectives. So I think using the body to actually draw the symbols, maybe that will open my mind a little bit to what they're talking about. Because so far I'm not really sure what we're doing, but I'm excited to be here. So thank you.
Yeah, I think this chapter 1 is a lot about how Drunvalo came to this topic. So he had a lot of experience that is like supernatural or something like that. And sometimes it's overwhelming because he resumed a lot of experience in some pages, and I felt that too. I felt that, oh my gosh, it's a lot to process, but I think it's just a little introduction. I think he resumed everything in the chapter 1. He tried to uh, make us understand what is thought and what is his beliefs. But we can do it. We can go through it.
And he will also go back to those topics. He will go back to who is taught. He will go back to the Egyptian history. He will go back to the Sphinx and how the Sphinx is a guardian of the knowledge. He will go back to the Atlantean fall. So he threw a bunch of information out there in this chapter, but he will go back to most of those topics, and he will bring more depth in all of them, if not all of them, most of them. And then since we're talking about that, just about some more info on the Sphinx that Elijah mentioned, that we met each other in Egypt. And when you're there, it's easy to see that, the head and the body, they're completely different. They're made in different ages. They're made of different stones. The erosion is different. I have read the article before, but when I visited, you get there and you think to yourself, man, what a bullshit. Those guys are telling this story for so many years, and man, that doesn't make sense. I'm here standing at this, and it was not built at the same time. And then researchers now they did the erosion test in the head and in the body, and then they concluded what Drunvalo brings in the book. There was so much more erosion on the body versus the head, and the erosion on the body was caused by water. Then you start thinking, okay, when we had water or this amount of water in Egypt, right, it brings us back to 12,000 years ago in the last glacial age. So the Sphinx is at least 12,000 years old. That's what the research I read was bringing up. And then Drunvalo actually says that it's between 16 and 13,000 years ago, or something like that, at least. And he brings the other context to it. And it's just easy to see, when you're there and you touch it and see, damn it, it's so clear. And he brings a very cool perspective of the religion, how the most of Egyptologists, they are Muslims. They believe in creation, and the creation will happen like 6,000 years ago. So I also experienced that, not judging the culture, not judging the religion, but as I asked the questions to the guides, I could perceive that, their belief system was limiting them to go deeper. Even like some of the Egyptologist that was super knowledgeable from my perspective, when I started, asking weird question about, okay, what is this spaceship hieroglyph here? What the symbol means? And said, well, it just looked like a spaceship. Okay, okay, but don't you think, how the Egyptians draw this spaceship and this what looks like a war tank? Don't you think, have never thought about that? And the guy, well, yeah, people say stuff, but it's just a coincidence. For me, I don't believe in coincidences. So just want to bring that context or that perspective of the Sphinx as well.
It's hard to put that together with coincidence because like they were so precise in all of the drawings. They were so precise with the measurements of how to build everything, the layout of things, the precision and how specific they were with the choices that so many of the the holy writings, the holy images that you have there, and then a couple of these things like, oh, no big deal, it's just a coincidence. Like everything else is so important and so specific that for some of these things to not be important and to not be specific just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and like this, I guess this historical information and like extraterrestrials, you know, all of this is important to me because it Myron said it well, but they're kind of keeping this historical block, right? Because a limit, they're being limited by a religion, right? Well, if you knock that limit away, you become unlimited too, right? And the more open you are, the more receptive you can be to what you really are, And if we have information about these ancient cultures who were connected to self, we can see it hasn't always been like this. It can be that way again, and we can experience that. We can have that. So I think that's the most important part of that, at least historical knowledge to me, not so much the technologies or the I guess things you can fall into with the ego, right? About it, but more of it is a truth, and it's still a truth. It's just we're limited right now. And back to what Kachi said, we need to like empty the vessel, right? Let get the backpack free, and so we can actually receive what we are. And so that's kind of important information to me, or my perspective on it at least.
And one thing I want to add on top of what you said, Elijah, about being unlimited and removing those blocks. This from my journey, what I'm learning is that we got to a point of time in history that we are unlocking more and more of that unlimited power. And just as Junvalu will explain how we got information from some of those beings and races in the past, we do have access to that now. If you ask, you will receive. If you keep asking, you will start receiving, you start seeing them, you will start working with them. Uh, for me, all of this is very new. It started actually in the first experience with the Sunsol last year, where I saw, Pleiadians coming to the Earth and starting a relationship with this being called Earth, this huge being called Gaia. And as I keep asking clarity and to understand, I feel more and more the energy of those star brothers and star sisters, and some of us are working with them without even realizing. Yeah, I went to NIDA last week to receive acupuncture, and I asked my guides to be with me as she was doing her work. And the first thing I heard in my mind, now we're working with NIDA, and the Arcturians will work. So, it was not my guys, were their guys, and they send a message clearly. But what I want to say with that is that we have open doors to receive more gifts, more tools from beings that have been through the planetary shift their own, and they're willing to teach us how to go through this time. So, wanna close out with that. We're going over time. I wanna check if you guys have something else to share before we finish this first session.
This is incredible. I don't even know what to say. This is phenomenal. Thank you. That's all I can say.
Well, so far I like all the information he's presented, and I look forward to it all giving me some better understanding and meaning in my life. I'm open and I'm curious, and I'm really grateful that this opportunity to come and look at something different. I was raised Catholic too, but I've been studying Vedanta. Eddie and I have been studying the Upanishads and different of the Hindu philosophy, which I love. But so this is kind of new and coming, unexpectedly. So I'm grateful to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, I'll just add on saying, like, just, throughout my practice of all this, I've kind of learned you really do have to kind of give up your logical mind, or at least let go of it a little bit. You can pick it back up whenever you want, right? But you give it up and be open and unlimited, and just the more open you are, the more you can receive. I mean, and that's where the answers are. You surrender that part of yourself, and when you ask, ask from the heart, ask from the right side. Yeah, right side. And yeah, you'll receive, right? So that's kind of.
Thank you guys. I want to just thank everybody that's shared their thoughts. It's really great to study this information together, but also hear everybody's perspective in the same way when we were reading the Kabbalion together. Like, a lot of it can be so dense, but it's really great to talk with everybody about it and just hear different perspectives, and it helps to bring it to life in conversation. So thank you guys. I really appreciate all of you.
Awesome. Any last word?
Just want to express gratitude, my brother. Thank you. Thank you to every single one of you as well for taking time and getting together. I think it's very important, and I look forward to meeting every Monday. I still have to get the book, so I gotta still, start up and catch up with you guys. Does everybody have the book here?
Yeah. There's an audio book on YouTube also, if you want to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. True. I saw that in the group chat. Yeah. So I'll probably get, catch up and.
I ordered the book today. It's going to be here tomorrow, but I started reading the Kindle version because there's like a free sample. You can start reading Kindle version like anytime. So that's how I got my start, but I'll get the actual book tomorrow.
Awesome. But yeah, much love, much gratitude. Thank you, fam.
Thank you all for being here.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste, beautiful people.
See you guys next week.
Bye.
See you next week.
See you then.